All right, good evening. It is March 9th, 2016. It's approximately 7 p.m. And this is the meeting of the Auburn Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded for viewing. It's available online at auburnguide.com. Before we begin, I have to ask if anyone is making a recording of this meeting. Okay, there being none, the first item on tonight's agenda is the 7 o'clock public hearing. Masad Family LLC, notice of intent for the realignment of Faith Avenue. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed to vote. Mr. Grabowski.
Thank you, Conservation Commission. Mr. Joe Simon became ill today, wasn't in work. He's got some kind of flu, stomach virus, so I'm on my own. I did ask Waterman Associates, which created the plan. I felt it appropriate, clearly, that they would be, as long as you grant a continuance, that they would be at the next meeting. I felt that you most likely were going to bring in a peer reviewer who had looked at this, which was Jillian Davies, possibly. I'm not sure if you'll bring her back again, but I know she was involved back a few months ago when we inspected some areas after the denial.
So is that your preference, Mr. Grabowski, to continue this for 2 weeks?
Not this moment. I'd like to
Okay.
present some information and then ask for the continuance,
That's
if I
fine.
could, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. If you read some of the there was 72-page notice of intent that we submitted. It was 15 general exhibits, 32 total exhibits. There were some exhibits within exhibits, such as the DOT exhibit had 9 exhibits within it. I will begin with giving you, there were revisions to the plan. If you read some of the numbers, you might have said they didn't. Some of the numbers on the plans did not match the numbers in the document, the 72 pages. At the time of submission, there were I was making a case to the Waterman Associates group that we needed to replicate the 575 square feet that was from the Cullinan 2007 order of conditions. I researched twice at your office over the last couple of weeks prior to the filing where all these numbers came from, the different replication numbers. And originally in 07, if you can find in your own file, and Ms. Davies, or if you choose to delve through the entire files, there was 575 initially in 07 with the order, and it wasn't because there was a loss of wetlands. It was a point of mitigation at that time, if you might recall. There was violations that occurred,
Yes.
and the commission required 575 in replication. So that initial 575, which was brought up by the Waterman Associates in the last filing, which was denied, the Watermans thought that that was not conjecture, but they weren't exactly sure where the 575 came from. So I came here twice, made sure to find earlier plans with the 575 described on a plan by Cullinan, but in your order of conditions, it did not describe any loss or replication, if we look at the 07 order. So Waterman, after I sent the order though did describe in handwriting by your agent at the time, I think Mr. Benoit, who had only been on the job for 7 or 8 days at the time, because we reviewed this. So he was new at it and filled it out the best that he did with the experience he had at the time. Did leave out in where you would see BBW or BAG. There was nothing in there. But on the front page, it did say wetland replication plan. So I knew there was a wetland replication somewhere, and actually it should have been wetland creation plan by Cullinan, and not replication, because there was no loss. It was creating wetlands for mitigation if you read the full NOI at the time. In fact, Ecotech, Scott Jordan, was the one that wrote up in the NOI this point of mitigation. I went through the full NOI, found it. And so in the end, I had to go back to Waterman, and I said, no, I don't want to submit anything with anything short, clearly, on replication of wetlands. So the plan that you have, 5A, has 840 square feet of replication in the, I would say, if you might, in the eastern end of the site, which is down near 395. We presently are proposing, I know, but hopefully I'm not jumping around too much, but I'll
That's
get
right.
through everything.
Go ahead.
2 replication areas. One in the general area where the replication was proposed, which was denied, and I'll go into that in a minute. And one down in the eastern end of the site, which would be north of the Cadillac showroom area. So the one you're looking at now, 5A, should only show 840 square feet on it. The new plan, which I have for you, has 980. That then brings us up to new numbers that I'm going to submit to you. For total replication would be 4375, and that comes out to 3,395 in the west and 980 in the east. The eastern replication area is directly at the outflow of the pipe that drains from the west area to the east, and it's on the same property. It's in close proximity, and I can explain further and work with your consultant, explain how it's a pollution attenuation replication down below as it will up above. And I might be jumping the gun a bit because maybe we are asking to use the 1055 4B 1 through 7 clause, the may clause, as we did before. But the difference this time is when you had Ms. Washburn reviewing this, the Waterman Associates were asked, and I was there, so I won't leave myself out of this whole problem, asked to use a soil evaluator to prove we had water table in the replication area. This time we've done a replication area A and B up above in the west, we'll call that upper area, and then the east we have test pits C, D, E, and F, and at C and D is where we have the 980 square feet replication. I had to work a few times with the Watermans to get us directly no higher than 12 inches above the high water table and hydric soils. We'll all be able to review that with your soil evaluator. And up in the north, I shortened the replication area to get it away from the parking lot and that foundation. And in fact, the A and B, which is on sheet 5A, the A and B, the northern replication, now is no further than 10 feet beyond the B soil hole. So instead of being jutting out into the north, into the parking lot and near the foundation, I was adamant with the Waterman people, keep the replication area directly over holes that we have a soil evaluator that reviewed this last year when water was in the holes with the soils. So now we can confirm water table up above through soil evaluator and her documentation, and water table down below. That just gets into us finally coming up with all the lost wetland. We might also say that the original 3,395, as I recall, square feet that Ecotech proposed under HS&T to replicate was only, and I did write this in my documentation, it was replication that was bordering channel. We were losing 213 linear feet of channel down to where the houses were. I reviewed all that old filing too. And in order to, we're not sure exactly why Ecotech decided to put all this again, creation of wetlands, not replicate, creation of wetlands around the channels, as Margaret had said at the time. I'm going to call those channels significant, so I want you to replicate them, even though if we review the old files, there was non-hydric soils all documented down through those channels, but neither here nor there. They were channels. At the time, it was said they're significant. We want you to replicate the channels. And so we came up with 240 linear feet of channel with 3,395 square feet around them. Then there came the Waterman filing in 13. That then asked for 2,000 additional linear feet of wetland loss to create the road that you presently now see. So, and as you recall, in the meantime, Margaret had claimed that the replication area was functional, the whole thing. And I claimed that some of it did not have hydric soils under it. In addition, Mr. Bellino asked DEP attorneys out of Boston if a replication area which did not receive a certificate of compliance yet and was out there in the field, if it was created and you file a new notice of intent, is what the attorney had stated out of Boston DEP. If you created it and it is a functional wetland, we're going to call it a wetland, no matter if it didn't receive a certificate, and also no matter that it was no lost wetland, that was creation wetland, because to put it around the channels.
Sure.
So in the end, we had 1,801 square feet of wetlands that did meet the performance standards with Margaret, and 2,000 square feet that didn't meet the performance standards because it had non-hydric soils below the 12 inches of organic. So we had those bright 4.4s, 4.6s, mostly in the northern side of the replication area. And presently, that is exotic invasives. I was there today again, and no water's flowing out of the wetland because we are at such a headwater wetland system. But it is a wetland, but because it only starts at Langway or Prime, it dries fairly quickly.
Right.
So our job, or my job was to, one, add up all the replication, all wetlands that were relevant to both the DEP's letter from Boston, 1801, 575 from the original Cullinan. And I will say this right now, the Cullinan never received an order, certificate of compliance, so I know how many certificates in the end that I will be asking for, hopefully if we get through this process, or sometimes somebody's going to have to ask for those.
Right.
We presently added the 575 into this one, the 1801 into this one, in the Waterman, with just the way AutoCAD works, it turns out not to be 2,000 loss, it's 94, excuse me. It was 6 square feet shorter than the 2,000 they originally came up with. So adding everything together, I came up with, down below, which I call east, 980, as I said, with the new plans I'm going to give to you now, all within 1 foot of, as required, with the hydrology, in the 3395 up above. And on the bank, we have 72 linear feet. We're only going to call linear. There's some conjecture, and here's where the bank questions come in from the language to the plans. In the past, when DEP wrote bank, they said intermittent streams have a single bank down the center because it's from mean annual high to mean annual low. And so when you have that and the thing dries up, historically, bank on an intermittent stream was down the center line. And perennial streams had a bank on either side because it flowed high to low and high to low. So when originally the bank was lost under the HS&T plan, that 213 linear feet, I kept, and I'm keeping now on my descriptions, and I'll revise my project description, but on my linear feet, I'm describing linear feet of bank lost and linear feet of bank, down the center of the channel created. So I have now lost 311 linear feet. There was, and I'll have to go to the addition here, let's see, with a 327 linear feet of bank replication, 255 linear feet up in the, I'll call west, and 72 linear feet in the south, excuse me, in the east. And that, that channel.
Okay, all right, good.
Okay.
That's right.
I'm not a good note taker. Go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
but
Go
I'm going to
ahead.
give them all to you. I'm just making a point that I'm sure your peer review will be clear that we need to meet performance standards.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not trying to throw a ton of numbers at you. I'm just saying that to create a 72-page NOI and to go in this, it was 2.5, no big deal, 2.5 weeks to make sure that I had everything right.
No.
So I will make sure that Julian
Yeah, no,
reviews the
I'm with
whole
you.
thing on the bank and the replication. We do realize again, we're asking for this, but as I said during the site walk with you, Mr. Garland and Ms. Davies, and Ms. Davies says, well, why should we give you the 1055 clause, the May clause? And then eventually I said, well, let's look down below to what we're going to give back, mitigation. We talked about the mitigation in the eastern end of the site, but we also talked about mitigation further down gradient, this DOT mitigation, that we would create plans. I offered to DOT that we would do the paperwork, and we presently, this week, DOT is out there inspecting. Mr. Gulliver, Jonathan Gulliver, the head of DOT, the superintendent out of Belmont Street, has taken my document, which is to you it's a single exhibit, but there's 9 exhibits within it to him. We ended up going all the way through measuring the delta on 926.15 to the 86 feet long, 7 feet deep of sand, 45 feet wide. The whole issue of can I improve the resource area, the whole resource area, to use that as a point of mitigation for us asking to use the 1055 clause. Ms. Davies felt that at the end of our inspection that, I'm not saying she's going to concur still, but she thought it was you know, if you can do all this stuff, it sounds like, you know, in the end, we're improving the overall resource area. So, although the Diamond thought I went maybe to the nth degree here, but I think that the only way to hopefully have the commission review this in a positive light is to perform all forms of mitigation possible. The channel down on 395 has 3 feet of sand in it. We have the 95 plans from when the 395 was 52 was created. That's one of the exhibits if you look through there. It was originally a stream channel. There was a pond right where you first start into the channel at the time, and then there was a channel leading away and eventually down to Eddy Pond. That's all now 3 feet of sand at the inflow. So the 36-inch pipe that inflows from our site under the cloverleaf, the 2 ramps, and then dumps onto inside the cloverleaf. That pipe is totally submerged because there's the water comes out of the pipe, it comes up, and then there's 3 feet of sand. So whenever there's even a trickle, if that pooling area is full of water, the pipe is totally underwater because there's 3 feet of sand now held up. So I'm making a point to DOT that their pipe is not functioning.
Didn't we talk about that before, though?
We have, and in fact, I know
Yeah.
exactly where you're talking
You're
about.
right, we walked down there.
walked that.
We walked down there. I thought that they were actually fixing that.
Well, I
And
think this is,
if they're going to fix it, it's only because of our effort.
Right. And I think that that's what it was, but I think that you presented it.
Yes, I did.
That right? Am I
Right, but it
about
still
that? Am I
takes-
remember that?
that's
Okay.
exactly
it-
right.
Okay.
But it still takes a little bit of effort to
Gotcha.
make them do these things. So we went to the point of, not only do we have sand here, but here in this pond, which is the only reason the Public Access Board created a boat ramp originally on Eddy Pond. I don't know if you're from town, but I lived in the next valley over.
25 years,
But the point was, they made that boat ramp because they were taking away fishermen's access to the pond, and that's what held up the 52 creation, which was the last piece of 395 built. They were looking at taking my property. I'm in the next valley over, Wellington Valley, so they were either going to put the road where it is now when it came into Oxford, or go into the valley, which Wellington Brook is in, where I grew up. So we kept in track of what was going on. And even if you read the old language, the last piece of 52 being built was from 20 down to the piece that goes from 20 to Cudworth Road, because of the problem with filling Eddy Pond. And so there was mitigation given back, and you can look at the history, it's out there, we found it. The mitigation that was given back was, we're finally going to put the road through Eddy Pond. There was no wetland creation at the time. It was the Hatch Act that was around in 72 or 3 whenever this was done. But they gave back an access for fishing. And actually, when you go to Public Access Board, it doesn't say boat access, it says fishing access, although it's boat. So what we were looking at doing is, can we do things up gradient? And I have other things on our property that we're doing too. I'm just getting to the 395, then I'll just jump back a little bit west of it.
Okay.
So we looked at the delta, we looked at the sand, we looked at how can we arrest the delta, take the sand out, how can we restore wetlands, take the 3 feet of sand out, and the water table is 30 inches down. So clearly that's 6 additional inches besides the 36, which is 3 feet. When we have the sand removed, we would be creating or restoring wetlands. DOT, Bill Clarity did say, well, how can you prove that this wetland wasn't filled like prior to, technically the date is 91. When the grant decision was created, which said every day that a violation stays in place is a separate day of violation, so you never come to a statute of limitations. Well, so that whole thing, was it before 91 when the fill went in and the wetland was lost, or was it after 91? They're not going to argue that. They're not going to argue the point. They see that, as I did the similar project over on 146, which I won't get to, in Sutton, which took me a year to get them to do something like a basin, which is in now. In the end, they said, we're going to do the right thing. So I think by proving the delta is there, that their sand is there, that it's maybe the right thing to do, whether or not the commission could force the thing to be done. I think Mr. Gulliver met with Mr. Clarity a couple weeks ago when this first went to them, and Mr. Clarity was put in charge. He's the point person on it. They've sent staff out, the maintenance people are out there. I have Fish and Wildlife to even make another slightly bending point here. I called Richard Hartley, and I think if Sheila Conroy did not give this to you, I have approached Mr. Richard Hartley of Fish and Wildlife, and I've asked him to comment so that we would get, similar to the Sutton project that I did, we would get them saying, hopefully, that there is a good reason to clean this up and to arrest the delta. I'm not suggesting we remove the delta, I'm suggesting we stop the continued expansion of the delta.
Right.
Presently, from the aerial flyovers, you can see bluegill nests on the delta. If you saw some of my exhibits, the delta is clear, and if you saw me standing on the delta, I look like 86 feet out, and I'm in like 4 inches of water. So the delta, and then when the pond was drawn down in '07, you can see the delta very clearly. So I added all those exhibits in to make a case to Mr. Gulliver and to present to you people that there's a reason to do mitigation that hopefully will add to what we're proposing to do.
Okay.
The Richard Hartley letter, and Mr. Hartley is asking that the Auburn Conservation Commission, I'm sorry I only have 4 of these, if you could, but now, my office, we were just I didn't know if Sheila made them out for you, and so at the last minute, just before I came, I says, I better make a copy, because Mr. Hartley and the Fish and Wildlife don't come out for individuals, but they will listen to what Conservation Commission's request. So if you see the front page and it says, you know, I know you won't do it for us, but maybe the commission can ask. And if the commission asks, Mr. Hartley wants to get out there in the next week to 2 with Mr. Mark Brudeau, who's the other fishery biologist. I talked to Mr. Clarity. Mr. Clarity of DOT wants to be on the inspection with DOT.
Okay.
So, with Fish and Wildlife. So all of a sudden we get all these other players and people, groups, that hopefully will clean up things down below. Now I'm going to go from that lower area below us, which I've flagged it all and will show it to your agent, to the area just west of it, which is our mitigation. Down in the eastern replication area, one of your photo exhibits shows the original reinforced concrete sluiceway, which drained the wetland system above from the upper diamond. Goes eventually all underground, and it dumps out in that eastern area. That sluiceway is 1.5 feet under sand. That's how much sand material has come off of Faith Ave over the years. It would be exhibit. I'm looking at it now. That's exhibit 11A. Okay, so if you go to 11A, you will not so much the first, but the photo exhibit. Well, you can use either one. The discharge point, which I point to on the upper right corner, it says photo number 30-inch RCP intermittent stream discharge. That's the discharge from our area into a 55-foot long concrete sluiceway. 15 feet exposed, 40 feet buried with sediment showing in sluiceway. So if we go to photo number 1, or any of these photos, which I think are very relevant, you'll see the sluiceway with some sediment in it in the first photo. In the second photo, that's my test pit, A, B, C, D, E. And that little thing on the right-hand side is actually the concrete sluiceway buried. So the amount of, right at the point of, if you go to the next set of photos, which is the third photo in, you're looking from, and it's hard to see, but on the lower right-hand corner of that photo, that's a piece of concrete. That's the edge, that's the southern edge of the concrete sluiceway. And on the left-hand side of the photo, that is, the sluiceway continued for another 40 feet, but it's buried. Further down to the left is where that test pit is that you just saw on photo number 3. What happened was all that sand in that sluiceway finally built up and forced the water coming down the sluiceway to go in a southern direction. In that now, if we flip back to where it actually says 11A, you'll see the sluiceway coming down and then going almost, well, not quite a 90. That's because the rest of the sluiceway is filled with sand over the years and forced now this erosion gully, which is continuing to erode. So what we're proposing to do down below is to take all the sand. There's 2 things we could do, and we could, one, create an entire stream channel through there by taking the sluiceway out. Or we could take the sediment out of the remaining 40 feet of sluiceway, concrete, and stop the erosion gully that's continuing to increase and directly downgrade into a photo. That would be photo number 4. That's just sediment that's within that channel leading down to that 395 cloverleaf. So what I'm proposing in our eastern wetland area is mitigation. Stop sediment loading, stop the erosion gully, either one of two things. One is, and I'd hope to review this with Jillian and you, and, you know, again, and a larger project, you would take, potentially you'd have the water coming out the 30-inch pipe. You'd have to cascade it down rocks, and then you could make a stream bank. We're already creating the amount of linear feet of lost bank. The one that's presently being proposed, again, there's an A and B that could happen. The A presently is clean the channel, clean the sluiceway, take the sediment out of the whole area, and allow the water to continue down the sluiceway that was put there for that purpose, and stop the erosion gully, that nearly 90-degree bend, which is still eroding.
What's the condition of the sluiceway? Is it?
Oh, it's still in great shape.
Okay.
There's no degradation of that concrete at all. It's just that Bill Coyle told me that approximately 4 years ago, people stopped using the amount of sand that you had been, and you went to the chemicals. I'm not sure how good that calcium chloride is to the whole environment, but that's what Oxford using it, Mass DOT's using it. In fact, when I approached Mass DOT at a Sturbridge meeting about a couple months ago, and I talked to this guy, the designer of some of these new measures along 395 and a pike, and he was out there for the pike. He goes, "Oh, we're not using sand anymore." As well. Okay, and then I didn't get a call back because, of course, they want to just not do anything, at least at the Boston level. He was out of Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, sand is still being used, even with Bill or them, but on a very, if it's a fifth or a sixth of what they normally use. It's mostly the chemical, and during, like even Bill said, I forget, it was 8 tons, and he used to use 54 tons. Don't quote me. It's now only in a certain conditions when it's icy and perfect some conditions still are better with a little bit of sand in there. That's all Bill said. So he uses a little. But in the years before we used the chemicals, 4 years plus ago, sand came off of Faith Ave, clogged this up, went down. The sand in 395 came from 20 and 395. So in all, and there's erosion gullies that occurred. What we're proposing to do, coming back to a point of slowing our flows down. If you read the full document, there's Waterman had written up, and I asked them for the exact numbers. We're reducing 33,000 square feet of impervious area on our overall project. We are now infiltrating and doing full stormwater where we had old stormwater, catch basins. Now the proposed new, and I'll just throw this out, the road we're looking to remove is about 1,350 linear feet, and we're creating a road of 360 feet. So we have a lot less road. We have a major amount of infiltration that exceeds, I believe Waterman talks about, 4 times more than what was needed. There was some errors in numbers, but they had already designed it, and I have some of those numbers and some quotes in my project description that talk about how much increase, and Waterman also talks about it in his stormwater book. So we have a considerable amount of infiltration over and above what's required by law with the removal. It was 11,000 square feet in the buffer zone removed, but a total of 33,000 square feet out within the buffer zone and out, add them together, and so that's a better project in itself. Sure. Plus brand new stormwater. Mm-hmm. So if I just run through if I give you a little bit more. We still had the RDA that we proposed to remove exotic invasives on Siemens property and our property as another point of mitigation. Mm-hmm. And we planned on doing that for 3 years, so that normally it takes 2 to 3 years to truly work those exotics out. We're doing them in Framingham, and I'm doing them on the Foss Reservoir in Framingham and other areas, the Corps of Engineer. So I added that in as a point of mitigation, which is Exhibit 13A. We also have been dumping on 15A. There's been dumping of material down into this eastern replication valley. We now have letters, and I've cited that under that 15, and if you look at the last exhibit, a letter to all our yard people and contractors, no more material is to be going over that bank. I know it would be technically a violation anyways, but apparently things have been going on. But I want to make sure snow, dirt, lawn clippings, brush, and also some restoration of the banks leading into that valley, that's going to be accomplished in this project. And back to that exhibit page. So mitigation, that DOT is, I think, a major point. The sediment removal down in the eastern area in that sluiceway, as I described. And then the stormwater, again, as I said, we are increasing that. I will say the two main, well, there's all of my main points, but one of the points that I'm sure you're going to be looking at closely is 10A, which is a waiver from the bylaw. We asked Mr. Bill Coyle, and he commented, and Waterman commented, if we have 8 feet of separation from our asphalt curbing to the wetland in the west, and they call it a windrow. I didn't know that term, that snow being plowed is called a windrow. But will the windrow have any chance of getting into the wetland to the west of the proposed new roadway? Mr. Coyle, I sent him an email, he verbally commented, and he will comment at any meeting you would want, that he does not see 8 feet of windrow into the wetland in that area. We can also, and plus there's a berm on it, the concrete that comes straight up also has a height to it, so we don't have overland flow in that direction. Everything goes back into our catch basins in the new roadway. I thought of if need be, a chain link fence could be put along that portion of wetland to ensure things don't go in that direction. But we don't normally have, one of the reasons some bylaws clearly protect a portion of the buffer zone is because, just like in Sutton, which I just went after somebody with the Sutton, people dump into wetlands because you're too close. This is the town roadway. It is at a headwater location. I followed the waiver request, and I wrote up all the reasons that it's asked for a waiver. I think if it's reviewed, it's precise.
Mm-hmm.
And one other point, here's a point on the request to amend the HS&T, the 11 order. What we did discover and let's see, what we did discover down in the east, that the wetland that was delineated by Cullinan and then adopted by HS&T, the water table is 30 plus inches down. It is not dominated, if you read my exhibit, and we can show that. It's Atlantis, it's black cherry, white ash, right up to the edge of the channel. It's dry under it. In fact, when you go down through the topsoil, you end up hitting those 4.644 soils, and eventually those test holes, you can see them in one of my exhibits. We dug down by hand because we couldn't put a machine down there. The Massads asked, well, put a mini down there. He goes, no, we're doing it. So in the summer, we hand dug these 36-inch and 40-inch holes to then send the soil evaluator down to go down, and those holes are still open for your peer review people. But we don't have a water table in those areas, and they're not dominated by wet plants or fact. They're not. I'm not sure. I gave an explanation why I think it was flagged like this.
Mm-hmm.
When it didn't make any difference when you're down in the middle of a hole. There was never going to be any work down there. Some delineators, and I can show you one in Sutton and I can show you one in Oxford, when it makes no difference, the line is not as precise as somebody augering and looking at whether they have soils. The vegetation, I don't know what they were going by on vegetation. That'll be up to you and your soil evaluator to say, Glenn, I see your point. They don't have soils and you don't have vegetation, and that's why we asked for an amendment to the original delineation under the existing order, because then we can create wetland replication that will function, that will be within 1 foot after we dig it down of the final soil. Then the yard runoff, those different pipes that drain into this area, that's from discharge from the old service area and from some of the parking, and then it comes in to the channel that leads from that concrete sluiceway. Somebody might say, well, is it a true wetland replication? Yes, it borders on a stream, and it borders on a stream that the other wetland comes down to. I have put some of the water, split the water from the yard runoff. There's 6 pipes on that side of that hill. If we go down here, we'll see these discharges. What I'm doing is attenuating some of that nutrient coming off a parking lot runoff existing by sending it through wetlands and channel to be attenuated. And I kept the channels shallow in order for me to get some use out of a wetland replication to clean up some dirty water and drop colloidals out. So there's a replication down below for 980, that, and then the sediment removal. and on and on. That plan also shows some, we end up using swamp mats. The brook channel is only yay wide, 3 feet wide. We put a swamp mat like you do at the National Grid, cross over and replicate, and then back out of there, and then take the sand out of that sluiceway channel, and then move back out. We would end up using a Waterman said, geez, how you get down there? We just did one for SMOC, South Middlesex Opportunity Council, whatever, they built affordable housing last in the spring of 15, right after the snow melt. We use a track truck to get down there. There is a way on the Faith Ave to come down, and it's shown on your plan as a viable access way with a not too steep slope and a track machine, so then that we could run any material up and out of there. That was their whole issue, like you're replicating down below and it's going to be a bugger to get the material out, but it's not, for the amount of material being removed,
Right.
we can remove that material.
Okay.
All right, so I think it's, I mean, we can go into this a little bit more the next time around.
I mean, I think you've, you know what, you've covered a lot of ground. I think, I appreciate your presentation,
Thank you.
and I think, let's have Waterman up here at the next meeting,
Yes.
and we'll get into the actual construction aspects.
Sure. Yes, sir.
So, all right. That being said, now, so I guess my question to you would be,
Yes.
what changes are going to be made to what you had previously submitted to us?
The error in what was previously submitted, and I described that at the beginning of my project description, was that we did not prove that we had a water table on the northern end of the replication area in the past. And
Okay.
that's what Margaret Hunger had on clearly. I explained that we did not present adequate evidence. I would hope that you
That's
guys
5A?
do
Is
read.
that what you're meaning?
Um,
That's 5A?
5A does now, but the actual project description goes into all our errors from the past.
All right, very
So
good.
if we go into that, I think your agent, if you do hire a peer review, and we hope that we come
sure we
along.
will.
Thank you very much. We'll go into the errors in the past, the reason for denial, and what we corrected. When, I will say one last thing, this will be last. When Waterman got this back again to give me back a plan that would work, do I pick on people? Sometimes. In the end, they sent the replication still out to the north. And the main point I will work to get at here is, when we had the soil evaluator, Paula Thompson, PE from Waterman, go out and do A and B up above, and I'll reiterate what I said earlier, I says, no, you're not going to send the replication area any closer to Siemens, nor are you going to send it to the north, and you only be within 10 feet furthest north of that hole that we prove we have water. I'm not going to go through what we did before, and I know the commission doesn't want to see it, that we can't prove that we have water in the replication area. So there was the error, the main error for denial, I think, it appears, if we read it all, and remember the meeting, and Ann and everything else, and Margaret came back from vacation and said, no, you don't have water there. Well, I made sure we had water up above and water down below, and met the one-to-one performance standards of bank loss and replication, and made sure that all the replication from all the past times were in this. So I think that's, and then, again, lastly, threw in a bunch of mitigation to hopefully make it sweet enough, or that would, overall, the whole system becomes improved, and plus you get the mitigation.
Well, I think, that is absolutely the goal, and as someone who has, we've dealt with Faith Avenue and this site off and on for the last 10 years.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So I think we're all interested, and I know your client is interested in getting some closure here.
Yes.
Getting a working wetland. I know clearly for their business purpose they want to realign Faith Avenue. There obviously is a benefit to doing that, not only economic benefit, but also a benefit for mitigation, for wetland restoration. And as you said, this has been approached in such a piecemeal manner, and with the construction activities taken on there, that the whole area, if you look at it now, it looks totally different from what it was 10 years ago, or whatever. So I think we're all interested in just getting this to where it meets performance standards. We get replication, we get a working wetland resource area, and the applicant is happy and doesn't have to come before us
I
anymore.
appreciate it. And because of the enforcement orders that were out there, because I read all of them, I know that there's been some, obviously, the bitterness here, not a bitter taste, anyways, if I put it that way. So I'm hoping.
Let's call it frustration. How's that?
Okay, frustration. Well, I'm here to hopefully solve that little bit of problem and make sure that everything, even to the point of making a letter that says we're not going to be dumping, and everybody's gonna get, this is that last exhibit, we're gonna ensure no more stuff goes into the wetlands, which is still an ongoing little thing going on, and I got on him this summer of 15 and said, get it out of there, get it out, we're gonna be in front of the commission, you know, talk to your landscapers, stop going over the bank with this stuff. And so we'll look to clean up even that, and just, everyone gets a specific letter that works on this site, and the owners and the general manager will know clearly that we're to respect the wetlands in the buffer zone when we're left.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, very good. So, at your request, we will continue
We
this
request.
to March 23rd. I know we have something else. I know we're going to have an RDA from Bill Coyle on the
Okay.
Beaver Dams at Magna Vista Drive. I don't know if that's been assigned a time.
3:23.
3:23.
It doesn't have a time,
It
so.
doesn't have a time. So why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this to 7 p.m. on March 23rd? And then Glenn, if for some reason something is already scheduled, we'll be in touch.
I appreciate that so much, and I don't want to, again, piecemeal thing. The new numbers that are different than your package, the 72 pages, this is that one page 3 of 9 that has the correct numbers on it, which DEP is seeing. I hope you don't mind if I hand it to you.
No,
that's
I'll
fine.
send emails also so
No,
that
that's
you can
fine.
all have the correct numbers on the bank loss, bank replication,
That's fine.
and I'll give you more copies through email, if you could.
Thank you.
All right, and last, yeah, do I keep saying lastly?
Yeah.
Here, I know, this is the lastly. Here's sheet 5A revised. This is sheet 5A.
Okay.
That's sheet 5A revised, and here's your full set of plans of sheet 5A revised, and that is it.
All right.
Thank you again for your time so much.
Revised.
Thank you.
Thank you, because I know if it goes to Miss Davies, we do want her to get the
Dan,
right.
here's one for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dan, this is one for Dan.
We need a 5A.
And you're taking notes, this is the certificate of mailing?
Okay.
Thank you.
I will get this to Miss Sheila.
Yes, thank you.
I should be thrilled to see it.
And I'm actually gonna give her a big pat on the back because I forgot how hard it was taking notes. I'm gonna be honest with you. Seriously.
You have an extra one here.
Actually, can I have one? And I'll give one to
Give that
Sheila.
Sheila,
You have
yeah.
one?
That's, yeah, that's one.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye.
Don't trust it.
This is, whose notice is March 23rd, 7 PM? Anybody? Is that one yours?
I have them.
probably
his, yeah.
It's
You
the
have it?
23rd at 7. I'm
Yeah.
all set.
Okay,
I'll
all
make
right,
sure to
good.
write that
All
down.
right.
Thank you again.
Yep.
Are you collecting the envelopes too?
No.
Collecting the envelopes?
Now, why don't we hold that until next
Okay.
week? Yeah, so
That'll be enough to do it.
there's clearly no need to take down the numbers because they
They kept
They were-
changing and they were everywhere.
kind of came fast and.
Yeah.
Can you repeat everything, Michelle?
Yeah.
I got a lot.
Okay,
Mr.
yeah.
Garland,
Yeah.
We did.
if the commission does get a letter out to Fish and Wildlife, they will immediately respond to you on getting an inspection.
All right,
So that was that first point.
I appreciate that, and
Thank you
we'll
again,
we'll
sir.
discuss
All
that.
right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
again. Thank you very much.
Do we have to vote to continue the meeting next week?
No,
No.
No,
No, we're
okay.
good.
Put it on it.
so anyway,
All right.
You got that, Michelle,
so,
yeah. Okay.
all right.
What's, I'm gonna have to look that back up in my notes because I'm almost sure that the reason that they got the waiver and they came in with their hair on fire and it was supposed to be separate of this was because that basin down below was supposed to be redone by the town. They had said the town was gonna do it and that's why they were able to redo the parking lot and move all of the other stuff. I'm almost positive that that's already supposed to be done and was part of that other agreement that wasn't part of this.
The problem though, I don't know, the area that he's talking about is you literally have to go over 2 ramps of
Okay,
to
all right.
395 and
So
across
was it
the
the one that we
street
looked at? It was
from the
the-
lower area
Okay,
which
all right.
they're proposing replication,
Gotcha, all right,
you know, so,
And Diamond?
all right.
all right.
Water. Where's the water?
So anyway, moving forward,
Let's see, yeah. Yes.
the next matter on our agenda is Magna Vista Drive, and in fact, I've gotten an email from Darlene Coyle Apparently, the town is going to be preparing, specifically the Department of Public Works is going to be filing a request for determination of applicability, and it will be on our agenda for March 23rd of 2016. So I would imagine with Faith Avenue now on for 7 p.m., we'll have to figure out when to schedule that, maybe 7:30, maybe even a little bit later. Okay, 7:45.
Sure.
But we'll figure that out. I can coordinate with Sheila on that. The next item is a golden oldie, 197 Pagachuk Street. And if you will recall, and I'm sure you will recall, seems like we're trying for months now to schedule another site meeting or to meet with Mr. Sensel at the property. And in fact, I'm looking at the minutes from our February 10th meeting, and it says that we will visit the site with Mr. Sensel in the spring regarding debris in the wetland. Well, it's not technically
feels
spring,
like it's sprung.
but it's
Really close.
it hit 78 degrees in Auburn today.
Winter
so,
sprung a leak.
so I think we're there, pretty close to being there. So what I will do is this. As you know, Ms. Conroy's on vacation this week. When she returns, I will send her an email, and we will schedule a meeting. Maybe not this weekend, but hopefully next weekend and before our next meeting on March 23rd. And I'll figure out who's available for that meeting. Okay? But that has to get done, and we will get it done.
He would be coming, excuse me, he would be coming here?
No,
Is
we'll
that
be
the
going
plan?
there.
We'll be, okay.
Because I think Mr. Stencil was skeptical of our claim
I understand
that there was a wetland or there was an area adjacent to his property. So we have to, we'll go there and have a chat.
Okay.
For other business, we have a number of requests for certificate of compliance. Now, I don't know if you're having this issue, but for some reason, when I've been getting emails from our assistant, they're in, it's a program called Windmail, and it's called a DAT file. Well, I can't open it at my office. I had to actually download an app in order to open the file. Now, maybe that's peculiar to my my desktop or my laptop. I'm not sure. But what I only mention that because she has been sending to me and hopefully to you emails with attachments. Specifically, she has sent some 16 pages actually of photographs. For New England Power for the work they had done, with the suggestion that where the work was done may be difficult to access for us to take a site walk.
Okay.
But that's something that they were not included in our packets. You
I
printed
ran
them?
them off. Yes, I was able
right.
to run them off, so you may
Okay.
take a look at that.
So in any event, I still think if we can
That's them, I believe.
make a site walk, we should try to do it. And it doesn't seem to me that these are particularly hard to get to, especially now that it's,
Better
there's
without snow on
there's
the
no
ground.
snow on the ground.
No.
So,
Wear boots.
well, I think maybe because they want, what I would suggest is this. Maybe a representative from New England Power can actually meet us at the site and they can show us,
Okay, that's a good idea.
and take us to where
Yes.
where the work was done. I think that would make it easier. For 14 Technology Drive, I did get a copy of an as-built sent, and I actually did make copies for everyone. I had gone there a few meetings ago, and the building is for sale. It's not being used. There you go. So, and I presume, looking at this this plan, that the Welland area is actually located behind the building. So I'd like to be able to go this weekend and take a look. And then for 5 and 7 West Street, I mean, that's the middle school. So we should, maybe we can take a walk by there as well.
Yeah, that's middle school. What is it? What are they asking for?
Certificate of
Okay,
compliance.
Okay.
But did we get an as-built from them?
I think
I
so.
just did.
I thought we did.
Okay.
Do you recall? No,
I don't think we saw it, but I thought Sheila said she had it. And that was a long time ago, though. Maybe it was, maybe that was Swanson. You know what, I think that was Swanson.
Okay, so I mean, clearly, I'm sure we wanted or asked for an as-built plan, so we should inquire about that. All right, so I guess my suggestion would be, and I don't know if anyone wants to take a look at Faith Avenue, or if you want to wait until Waterman comes in, and then maybe we organize something more specifically.
I think we should wait for them.
All right.
I feel we should. So,
I'm just gonna point out, that weekend after the 23rd is Easter.
The weekend before.
27th is Easter.
Right.
I'm not this weekend, the following weekend.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so that will be before Easter.
Okay.
So you're talking 25, correct? No,
So,
that's
No.
after our meeting. No, okay, I'm sorry. Ooh, jumping in.
this Saturday will
It'd
be,
be 12.
The
12.
so the
12.
19th.
The 19th, okay. Palm Sunday. So the
Is
day
it-
before Palm Sunday works for me.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. That's what-
All right, and again, I'll circulate emails to see if we
Okay.
can
Okay.
actually.
Good.
So I guess the only thing that we would have to do this weekend is site walk for 14 Technology Drive. I can't imagine it's going to take us all that long to do.
Okay.
So the other item we've got is
8 o'clock, coffee house, please.
the usual, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
8 a.m., just gonna do that one, okay.
And then the only other thing we have is are the meeting minutes for February 10th, which are very concise.
I wasn't here, so I can't vote on the
That's
minutes.
fine.
And Sheila's not here, so I can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not as much.
I'm not sure there's much for you to criticize there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
No.
Oh, it's a quick read.
I'm just looking at discussion where it says Ms. Wharton has contact, it should be contacted.
Hold on, let's see if I can scratch it out.
Okay. That's right, you're our official scrivener.
Yeah.
So, under 3 Magna Vista Drive, second line where it begins Ms. Wharton,
Yep.
it should be has contacted, ED.
Okay. Okay.
And that's the only change I have.
I am not seeing anything.
Okay.
I like this version.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the February 10th meeting
as amended?
as amended.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it's a vote. All right. Does anyone have anything else?
No, I think I did give you the input from the
So did you enjoy your the meeting?
I did. It was very informative, and I printed out at home, as Lisa had told me, they sent them you the handouts, they emailed you the forms, and actually what I had in front of me was what we really did, formal wetlands, basic fundamentals on the overhead. There was everything's there. A lot of people there ranging from communities outside of Boston, or neighbors in Oxford.
Oh, it draws a great crowd.
Yeah,
It really
was
did.
huge. It was
It
a
was
ton
in
of
the-
I mean, it's statewide.
I had Nantucket, too, Nantucket was there, and the second one was more of a role play on running the municipal meeting.
Excellent. Okay, if no one has any,
I'm getting
Sure,
there.
that's true.
Yes.
It's fundamental clauses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right, there were only
I
four.
motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed to vote. Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.